Shall I start by sharing the screen? Uh, Now, first I want to start telling a little bit about myself. Um, I'm teaching now for, I think, 20 years in different kinds of fields. I started in 1985 as a health professional, a physiotherapist. And from that time, I've been studying all sort of things. So um, went way up, and then the last years I did some orthomolecular medicine, biophysical medicine, and did a lot of things in yoga and meditation. And now I'm studying at Quantum University, trying to get my PhD for integrative medicine. So um, one of my passion is to find out how the body will work, and I'm sure I won't find it out because it's too difficult. But still, I learn a lot, and I try to share everything which I've been learning, and that's why I said to Maria, uh, I would like to bring a presentation not only about Quoravita, but also about some different things which are very important for people if they are a health practitioner. So I hope to bring to you all sort of information about water, about electromagnetic fields, about lots of things. Well, that's what I did, and of course I'm also I'm a dad, so I've got 6 children, so it's very busy over here, and but they are already a bit older. The youngest one is 18 years old, and my oldest one is 26. So they do their own thing. Well, then you know a little bit about me. Over here in Holland, we have a clinic. There are 40 health practitioners working over here, and doctors, therapists, but we also do a lot with yoga, and we all try to bring integrative medicine in our own different way. So I hope to increase that awareness that integrative medicine and regular medicine will join once. Okay, shall we start? Good. Okay, I start to share the screen. Let's see. I hope you can see this all.
Yes,
Yeah?
Can see.
Good. Okay, let's start. Because I think the lecture will be 1.5 hours. So it's a lot of time, but you will notice it will be over within 5 minutes. Then you think it's 5 minutes, and then it's already 1.5 hours. So it will be very quickly. What I want to talk about is integrative medicine. So integrative medicine, a lot of people think about it as complementary medicine, but in fact, um, um, integrative medicine has to do a lot with quantum, with things which are very small. And then you have to have some knowledge about electromagnetic fields. You have to know something about the structure in our body, which brings the electromagnetic fields to the places where it can be as an antenna where people can find it. So quantum is very important in integrative medicine. At this little picture, you see someone who looks very like me. It was me, 50, more than 50 years ago, 54 years already. And I started my life with smiling a lot, and I thought I want to try to find a way to smile in every cell in my body, and that's why at a very early stage I started to know a little bit more about music. And my father, he played the saxophone, so I wanted to play the saxophone. And I learned a lot about tones, about notes, about frequencies. And so when I was very small, I already knew that some frequencies were harmonizing my body. And at that time, I didn't know how to use it for medicine. But now I know that you can use a lot of frequencies um, for yourself and heal in a healing process. Tatiana also is there. Hi, Tatiana. So from this time, I learned the first parts of nature medicine, and I hope you will all find also your way in nature medicine. So we become masters of healing, and it's not about the knowledge, what you have to know. It's what you have to feel in yourself. So when you're a doctor or when you're a healer, you have to know something about yourself. It starts always in yourself. And I learned that um, um, from all sort of courses. But what I didn't learn was that that you always have to find a way in aligning yourself, and that's very difficult because normally you try to align yourself to knowledge in how to heal the body from someone else, but it starts with yourself, and that's very difficult. So what I want to do is to bring you some knowledge in how to align yourself to your own body, to your physical body, your mental body, your spiritual body. And I'm sure one of you has to be in love. There must be one of you in love. Tatiana, are you in love? You have to be in love with yourself. So when you're in love, there's something very strange happens in your body. When you're in love, some chemicals are are in your body, and you can align to that chemicals, and then everything what you want to do is happening, and you don't have to do anything because it's happening already. So it's very curious what sort of chemicals and what sort of structures are there when you are in love. So I did some study to that specific situation, and I hope I can tell something about it later. We also have to know something about the language. If you look to this Chinese language and you translate the language, then you will see there's one part which is very strange, and you see it on the third line. They translate it a bit different. So if you know the language, that's one part, but you also have to translate it in the right way. And sometimes our body has is translating some things differently as we want it to be translated. So it's very important that we know not only the information, but we also translate it in the right way. And that's what we're going to talk about too. So let's start with the first part. The first part starts with the first element. And the first element in which we have to align to ourselves is something which we call the earth. The most important thing to align to is the earth on which we walk. And lots of people are forgetting to align to the electromagnetic field of the earth. That earth started 13.7 billion years ago. That's a long time ago. And regular medicine is only here on this earth for 300 years. That's a very small part. So lots of people who were there before had a sort of way in healing themselves, and their body already knew how to heal itself. And now regular medicine thinks that they know how it works, but they don't. They don't. So it's very good to know that we, and I'm talking about a few things which I know, and it's only from the last part of, because I'm 50 years, and I know some things from 100 years before, but it's a very small part. If you look on a very clear night in the desert to the sky, you can see 10,000 stars. I don't know if you've been to the desert once, but it's very nice to see. But if you look very carefully, you can see 10,000 stars. Every star has a complete uh, 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 have some planets around it. We have 300 billion stellars, which we know, and 300 billion stellars. That's a lot. That's a lot. And in every one are 100 billion stars. So if you know how many stellars there are, how many stars there are, how many planets there are, it's too much. So it's the same as if we want to know how it works in our physical body, it's too much. So you don't really know what's happening. It's just a very tiny part in which I'm going to explain some things, and know that a lot of this I don't know either, and no one on this earth knows how it works. But we know some little parts. We know, for example, that the Earth moves around the sun and the planets spin around the sun. But what you maybe not know is that our complete solar stellar is traveling through space with a speed of 5,400 kilometers per second. So every second, you're more than 5,000 kilometers uh, from the place you were. So every second, you're new. Your human body is renewing with all the information which is there. And I hope you know Nassim Haramein, the scientist. He does a lot of good work, and he's telling so many new things about information medicine, and he's doing it in his own way. But if you translate it to this story, then you know that that if we can combine all those sciences, then we can get a lot of knowledge in how to heal ourselves. One thing I also want to tell something about the last 2 years, I did some study in DNA, and I did an education which they call smart DNA. So now we can from DNA we can get some SNPs, and from that SNPs you can get the information which you want to know, because if you know a gene is on or out, then you know what chemicals in your body can be produced or not can produced. And at that time, I thought, when I know a lot about DNA, then it's uh, I have more information in how to heal the body. But what I forgot was that DNA is mostly water. So DNA, DNA is very easy to understand if you know what's in it. But the biggest part of DNA is water. So we also have to know something about her, not only about the chemicals which form DNA and what the DNA does. So I understood that that I had to learn more about water, what I'm going to tell you something about. And maybe later I will do a seminar about DNA, but not this time. What I also learned was that our body is sort of a field, a toroidal field. So our body, our physical body, is made out of frequencies, and that frequencies are are all gathered like information in a toroidal field. And Nassim has a very good explanation in how that toroidal field is not only creating our body, but also is creating, for example, the earth and all the things which are here. That toroidal field, you could see it as, for example, the aura. We have aura around us, and that aura, if you bring that to a scientific model, it's just like a toroidal field. In that toroidal field, the energy is going quicker or going slower. So the frequencies are going up or down, and the higher the frequencies go, the less dense the system will be. So if you have a toroidal field, and in the middle of the toroidal field, you will get something like a spinal cord. So you can see the middle of the toroidal field as the spinal cord. And all around that spinal cord, there are information fields. All the information fields you can see as a sort of web, as a sort of universe, which is which is completely designed by the laws of science. And I don't know if you know something about the Fibonacci uh, things. Then everything which you can find in that toroidal field is like the Fibonacci um, mathematics. So there is some logic in it. And if you understand the logic, then, and if you know how the logic works, then you can create the same sort of information fields. And there are some very clever boys over there and girls who can create that information field where I'm going to talk about. Fibonacci is everywhere in the universe and everywhere in our body. It's 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, um, and so on, 13, 21. So this is an example of the toroidal field which represents you. So Tatjana, this is something you like, you look like, and Dieter also. Only Dieter is maybe a bit larger, or maybe he's a bit smaller. I don't know. But Nassim Haramein, he has some very good theories in how the structure of space is in this toroidal field designed. And if you follow his reasons, then you can create something very very um, uh, magnificent. And I like his way in posting that things. So that's why I wanted to show you this one. I already talked about that toroidal field is found everywhere. Everywhere in the universe we can find that toroidal field, even around our Earth. Now let's talk about that field which we can represent in water. Um, I think you all have heard about Mr. Emoto. Mr. Emoto, he made some beautiful pictures of water, and he froze the water. And before he froze the water, he let some music into that water, and there was a structure which created in the ice crystals of the water. But now they have, of course, they have more material to photo or video water, and this is the latest, one of the latest um, pictures taken from water, which was expanded to music, to tone, to frequencies. And and if you see very carefully, you can see a sort of a pattern. And everything in the universe has specific pattern. So if I'm speaking, I can create such an image of my voice into the water. And now we have we don't only have the GDV camera, but we also have this sort of cameras who can picture these great images of water. If you know what image uh, is created, for example, from muscles or from nerves or from emotions or from intentions, and you can picture it in the water, and you can create it not only on a picture, but you can also create it artificially, then you can create an information field which looks like a muscle, which looks like a nerve, which looks like an emotion. And one of the people who created that sort of information fields in quantum was Peter Fraser. Peter Fraser was a man who created also the NES system, and he has made great achievements in creating specific information fields for tissue, but not only tissue, also for emotions, for feelings, for thoughts. This is a nice video. So this is a sound recording of an owl in water. And you can see the specific chords which are in the water. And I also have something on my telephone in which I can record my own voice, and you can see what happens in the water. That's very nice. It's not only nice, but it's also very. It gives a lot of information about frequencies, about your core frequency. Every person has one core frequency. Everyone has to create a sort of harmonic core frequency. And you all know that if you are in harmony with yourself, then your frequency will be completely aligned. And if you are a doctor or you're a therapist and you are not aligned to yourself, then your patients will have a big problem. Because if you will treat them, you will bring the information from you directly in the field of the patient. And that's one of the big problems, I think, of medicine, that therapists and doctors don't know what their effect is on the patient. And we will talk about it later. This is just a nice picture. It's about from the toroidal field till the structure of universe and everything which is related from the smallest part till the biggest part. And if you come from the small part to the big part, it's almost the same. It looks the same. So small and big is the same. And everything which is in between has a sort of structure in which we can see only if it has a frequency between 400 and 700 nanometers, because our eye can only see a very small part of the frequencies. and the rest is not there for us, but it's still there, of course. This is a very, I think it's a very big statement. If you talk about healing, if you talk about healing art, if you talk about medicine, then you have to do something which is magic. If you don't, if you don't make it magic, then it becomes science. And if it's science, then it's something else. So I think healing and medicine and integrative medicine has to be something magic. And I hope I will bring the magic to you with the rest of my presentation. I like a lot of old wisdom, and um, a lot of healing power is in stillness. And I learned in meditation, I learned in yoga and in yin yoga that if if you know the knowledge about silence and if you go within, then you get a lot of answers. And if your mind is not still and it's very noisy and it's going everywhere, then you think you know a lot, but you don't get the picture. So to get a real picture, you always have to go in, and you always have to find the silence. You have to find something which is very quiet. In nature, we have a lot of forces, and if you look to science, you can talk about gravity. Well, gravity is not only it's a force, but it's also something which we can call an electric magnetic force. We all know gravity, and I won't talk about it long. The second force is what we call an electromagnetic force, and that's where we're going to talk about, where I'm going to talk about if we talk about the Quoravita, the little crystal with a coil in it. But electromagnetic forces are also the forces which we use if we do something in medicine. And it's also the force which is used, for example, when you have regular medicine. So if you have a regular medicine, then the electromagnetic force from that medicine does its thing. And then you also have something like a magneto-electric force. It's something different. A magneto-electric force is something which, for example, salamanders have. You know a salamander? What a salamander is? So a little creature. If you cut a, a limb from the salamander, it will grow in, for example, 30 to 60 days. It will grow again. If you will cut my limb, my arm, it will take some longer. And we all think it will not grow. But I think it can grow if our thoughts will be different. It's the same as you, Tatjana. You do magic things with people who can't see, and they can't see with their external eyes, but they use their internal eye, and they can see everything. They can see colors, but they don't see it. They align to that field, that information field. And that's also what the salamander does. The salamander has an ability to get to that information field, and he creates a sort of frequency in which he can make that stem cells, that pluriform stem cells, work again and create a new limb. But if a salamander can do that, I can do it too, I'm sure. So what we need to find is to find a way in that magneto-electric forces. And that's very difficult because there's not a lot of knowledge about it. We also have something which we call weak force. I won't talk about it anymore because you can talk about a day of, only on this subject, but I'm mentioning it because together with the nuclear force, which is very powerful, you have something which has to be aligned very carefully because when 1.5% of the electromagnetic force or 4% of the nuclear force is different on this earth, just a small bit, then we don't have any oxygen or carbon left, and no one can live on this planet. So it's very curious how the universe and how the earth creates such a stable field, information field, in electromagnetic forces and nuclear forces. And it just has a little margin in which we can shift. And that's also the same part in our human body. We have a little margin. And if we go out of that margin, then we have a big problem. So I'm very curious, what do we need to align our body field, our information field, our toroidal field to heal ourselves again? That's where we're going to talk about. I did some presentation about people who get very old and um, who are very vital. And I don't know if you call it also the blue zones. Do you know the blue zones? Blue zones over here, they call them the blue zones, are zones all over the world in which people grow, for example, 120, 130, 140 years old. And they are very vital. And there are specific zones all over the world. So in Georgia, Georgia, I don't know if I call it Georgia very good, but Georgia we call it over here. You have Okinawa in Japan. You have in Pakistan. You have a big tribe in which people get very old. And they discovered that from the 92 chemical elements, our body only needs 40 elements. And they were searching for, of course, uh, what is it that people are getting so old and they stay vital? And I also thought that must be something with food. Must be something with food. What do they eat? But they discovered they made a sort of pyramid, and they discovered that there were two things which were not very important. There were some things very important to get very old, but the less the part which was not very important was, what do you think? Food. Food was not very important. And what also was not very important was to move. So movement was also not very important. And then I thought that's very strange because over here in Holland, everyone has to move. Everyone has to be healthy because of their food. And those two parts were less important parts. And then, of course, I thought, what is the most important thing? Because if you know what the most important thing is, then you know where to gain more vitality. And the most important thing was to have a goal in your life, to come out of your bed and have to do something which gives you pleasure. That was the most important thing. All those people had something to get out of their bed. So um, it had to do something with something different than food or moving or uh, amino acids or elements. And I thought that's very important to tell. This is a lady from Peru who is 130 years. And this lady also 132 from Okinawa. Well, I would look like this, I think, or maybe a little bit like this when I'm growing old. So vitamins and amino acids and sugar and omega-3 acids, of course, they are important, but they're not the most important things. I realized that those things which I mentioned are just the carriers of information. So vitamins and amino acids are the carriers of information. They are the planes in our body which carry the information. But they have to have the right information. If they don't get the right information, then they can't do anything. And that's what I also learned in orthomolecular medicine. If you have orthomolecular medicine and you give something magnesium, for example, some people are doing very well on magnesium, but some people don't. And I always thought that will be something with the stomach or with the large intestine or with the small intestine. But I realize now that if you give something someone with the information, our body field needs to read it. It needs to recognize it. If it doesn't recognize it, it doesn't work. So we need something more. And now I will come to the part about Quoravita. Um, Everyone knows that stones and that I don't know how you call it, minerals. In Holland we call it edelstenen. Um, these stones, these gems, they have colors, they have minerals, they have a specific electromagnetic field which they radiate. And the fluoride, the rainbow fluoride, has all the specific frequencies of the light in it. So every frequency which we can find is in this particular gem. Fluoride is made of calcium, more than 50% is calcium. And you can see there's carbon, selenium, mangan, iron. So there are different elements in that stone. And they all radiate, they all bring their specific frequency. One of the founders of NES is Dr. Rainer Vierwegen. He has made a very specific device which is called the MyHealth. And I already did a lecture once for the Human Light System about the MyHealth. And what he discovered together with Peter Fraser was that if we know on what specific frequency and what information pattern is related to structures in our body, and we can send that information field out, then our body can align to that specific information field. It will interfere with that specific information field. And from my background from making music, I already knew that if you have a fiddle and you take one specific note and you take another fiddle next to it and you play on it, the other fiddle which is not being played will resonate in the same frequency as what you are bringing. So if you can use the elements in the gem, in the fluoride, and you bring a coil in it which sends out specific frequencies, which I will talk about later, and information patterns which align to your body field, to specific parts of your body field, then you can make your own wisdom work again. So you can use your own wisdom from your body to align to that field again, which is a field of harmonic frequencies. And that's what they created with the Quoravita. Um, there's a lot of scientific evidence on pulsed electromagnetic frequencies, PEMF. And I won't tell you all about it because if you Google on PEMF, you will get loads, I think 10,000 different studies on PEMF. And it's all, everyone knows that PE, pulsed electric magnetic frequencies, are very good for our human body. So um, this is the science behind the Quoravita. They made a very nice uh, thing of it so you can wear it on your neck. And I will take the next one. It has different colors. So sometimes you have a fluoride which is purple. Sometimes you will have one which is orange. But they always have all the different elements in it. Fluoride means flow. And if you look on the internet, what this stone does, it was used in the old days as a travel stone. So it was also a meditation stone. It was a stone which grounds you. And it has a very specific structure, which is cubic. And that structure is very easy for information to go to the place where it's sent to. Um, it's it's there's a very big science behind all the different structures of gems. So if you want to know more about it, I would suggest read something from Professor Richard Gerber. I don't know. Do you know Richard Gerber? Richard Gerber has a very good book which is called um, uh, Frequency as a Medicine. It's a very sorry.
Maybe you can write the name in the chat.
Or maybe yeah, I will write it at the end.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But that's a very good book if you want to know more about frequencies, but also want to know more about the stones. He wrote a lot about it. So this stone is very good in using the structure and bringing the frequencies, but also the information to our human body. Next to this, you have to have some software, and in the My Health, you have it into the device. But what I liked about this was that they put the software in the telephone. And you can put your gemstone into your telephone and then put it on flight mode. So you always have, if you use it, you have to use flight mode because else it will interfere with the GPRS signals from your phone, and that's not very handy. So if you put your phone on flight mode, then you have the software on your telephone, and you can send the information through the gemstone to your body. And you can use it off body. In the manual, they also talk about you have to put the gemstone on your body, but that's not necessary. If you keep it next to you, your complete toroidal field will resonate with the frequencies which come out of that gemstone. You have three parts. So this is what's on the device. But you've got three things in which you can change the information field. And they just have three things, but they're making a sort of app store in which you can do more. Now they have pain relief, relaxation, and they have one more, muscle tension, I think. Yes, those three are the three which you can change. If you have the software, you can, for example, if you have pain somewhere, it doesn't matter what sort of pain, if it's an organ or it's a tissue, then you can put it on the severity. So if you have very severe pain, you put it on 10. And then you take the next part and you will have to put in where that complaint is. So you can change where complaint says it says elbow, but you can also say jaw, or you can say spinal cord, or you can say your knee. Can put in where the pain is, and then you also can put in the session duration in how long you want to bring in that information. And sometimes it takes a very short time, and they also used the Fibonacci minutes again. So it's 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 13 minutes. So it's the time is just like what Fibonacci said. How long should you use a frequency to be very effective? I already talked about there are now 3 apps which they use, and one is for pain relief, one is for muscle tension, and one is for relaxation. And in future there will be more apps, more specific apps, and you can download them on your telephone, and you can send that information profile which you need. So it's a very good innovation, and I'm sure it will be the same like the MyHealth. This is the gem. So they put in a coil of copper into that gem, and this device sends the frequencies which are very low. So they use frequencies like the Schumann frequency, about 8.7 hertz. And they also use some other frequencies which are very low, um, which are brain waves are also working on the alpha waves. So they have not only 8.7, but they also have 10 hertz or 12 hertz, but they're all very low frequencies. And our body is reacting very good on low frequencies. And if you look very carefully, you can see in that fluoride crystal that therein is the coil, which sends out the information, the specific information patterns. I like it very much because it's very small, and you can take it everywhere, and you can not only use it for yourself, but you can use it also for your animals, or you can use it for your family, and it worked very good. I like it. This is the company which makes it. Well, that was the little part about the Quoravita. So maybe a little summary. It sends out specific information patterns. For now, the specific information pattern which is related to muscles, which is related to your brain, to the alpha waves. And if you come into the alpha pattern in your brain, then you will be relaxed. So that's what's happening. And it's related to pain. And that last part is a very good one because a lot of people have pain. And if you can reduce the pain, then you can find more where the pain comes from, because it's not only about reducing the pain, but it's also trying to find out what is the cause of the pain. And normally in regular medicine, we just say we need to get rid of the pain. But in complementary medicine and integrative medicine, you always want to find out what is the mental cause, what is the emotional cause, what is the cause in the information which creates the pain. Because our body will always tries to help us. And it gives the pain to give us a clue. normally we don't know what the clue is, and we just want to get rid of the pain. Okay, we have solid things. Solid is very easy. We have a lot of liquid things on our Earth. That's more difficult to understand, and I will talk about it later. Because the liquid, the water in our body, is the carrier of information in our body. And I will talk about it more. The second element is in our body is water. I don't know if you know the latest research about water, but um, the latest research says that our body is for about 60% water. Before I learned that our body was about 67% water. And now they reduced that amount because they said people are getting more fat, and fat has less water. So now the amount of water in our body is about 60%. And the human body of a woman is even less water. It's about 50%. The human body of a man is about 60%. And I thought that was very curious because I thought, well, ladies, they are they have a lot of water. But it's now all over the world. They measured it, and it's like this. Ladies, women have more fat than men. Uh, I didn't invent it, but they say it's like that. So let's say about 50 or 60% of our human body is water. And what do we know about water? We don't. A lot of people don't know a lot bit about water. Let's see what we can tell about water. This is a man which has not a lot of water. You can see it in his skin. Uh, this man is also very old. Uh, we know water. I learned about in school that water was H2O. And some years ago, I learned that that is not true. Water is not H2O. Water has a charge. And I always learned that water is neutral, but water has a charge. And I will tell about it later. Water is so intelligent. It is the most intelligent part in our universe. So it's also very intelligent in our body. And if you look at water, you would say, well, where is the intelligence? It's just water. But water stores memory. And Mr. Emoto already knew that, but the latest research of, for example, from Stuttgart, the University of Stuttgart, they did a lot of research in water, and they know that water restores memory. There was one scientist who did a very nice study with water, and he had 10 students who got some water out of a bottle, just normal structured water. They put it behind a microscope, or under a microscope, and they looked at that water, at the structure. And what they saw was that every student had a different picture of that water. And when they looked more carefully, they saw that the structure of the one who investigated the water was in the water. So they looked at that water and they saw the structure of the person who put the water in the microscope was in that drop of water. And they repeated the experiment. And then one of the conclusions was that no experiment can be used if it's done by different people, because then the water will change. So it's a very nice conclusion. I've got some questions for you. Questions in which we think And disappeared is not, if I look at disappeared, it must be different spelled, I think. But why is ice so slippery? And and what's also very curious, how can water climb into a tree 100 meters while the water column is still broken? That's very strange. And how can a root of a tree or of a little, very little flower break through uh, um, stone? And if you take that little root and you pluck it off, then it's there you have it in your hand. How can water do that sort of things? These were the questions Professor Pollack, Jerry Pollack, had for himself. And Professor Pollack, I met him at the conference where I was teaching, and he was teaching over there. He had a great lecture. I don't know if you have ever heard of him, Jerry Pollack. No? No? Yes? Well, you must see his work. He's great. I will share some information from him. This tree is 95% water. It's all water. But if you look at it, it's very hard water. All the information is stored in one drop of water. That's something which we forget very easily. Water has the ability to carry not only information inward, but also on top of the water. And this is also water. If you look at this village, then the water is around it, but they're clouds. Clouds are also water. It's a different state in water. Something which we forget very easily. So if you know that water contains memory, contains information, carries information, and has different states in the universe, but also in our body, then you must know a little bit more about that part which we call water. If you look at a baby, what do you think? How much water is in a very small baby? What do you think?
90%.
Yeah, 90 to 95%. Yeah, that's good. So a baby is all information. And if a baby is in the mother, it will be the information of the mother which the baby carries. And of course, there is a soul in that body, which is sometimes there and sometimes in a different world. But mostly the information of the mother will be in that baby. And if the baby is born, then the information of the environment will be in that body, stored in that body. And in the first 7 or 8 years, that information field, which we call all the 7 chakras, will be lined up and will be for the rest of the life the things we have coped with, things which will come back every 7 years, because every year you will get that same information pattern which was distorted maybe in the first year or in the second year or in the third year of your growing. So we have to do something with that information field. We have to know something more about how is water carrying that information? How is that working? And what I already told was that at the Stuttgart University, there's a lot of research now in how water carries information. This is also water, and it's carrying some information. It's not; they're not muscles. It's just water. So ladies like this picture. Some boys too. Okay, let's take the next one. We need water. We need a lot of water. Every person needs. If you don't get water for 4 days, you're out. You need water. Water has a very curious thing. If water gets into a spin, into a toroidal field, then the information will be different. So if we bring information in water, it would be nice if we can bring it with a sort of spin. And that's why water, which is still, is not moving, is bad water. Mr. Emoto also said that's bad water. Water has to move. The best water is water from a spring, which is going down the rocks and which is where are almost everywhere are spins. And if you compare this to the human body, which is also very, for a big part, water, which we will discuss later, then these sort of spins are like spins which we call acupuncture points. Acupuncture points are also in the water of our body a sort of spins in which the information is very renewing. So our body is constantly renewing the new information which is coming in. Water has a very, very nice ability to divide information. This is sweet water on the left side and salt water on the right side. If you bring water together, salt and sweet, it will it will have a sort of line, and it will not mix. So that's very nice to know that water has also the ability to see where it brings a sort of boundary. And that sort of boundaries are also in our body. I will tell about it later, how it works in our body. So if you know about that water carries information and you're in a swimming pool in China, then you have a lot of information over there. So if you're swimming there, I don't suggest that it's very nice because you will get all the information of all that people into your body. And I would rather take something else, something like this, to just share the information with someone which I love. So take care. If you go into a swimming pool with a lot of people, then uh, I think you can have a problem. This is in Dutch. I couldn't find an English one, but it says on the green side that if you look at our body, then 60% of our body is oxygen, 20% is carbon, 10% is hydrogen. So 90% of our body is oxygen, carbon, and hydrogen. That's a lot. Only 10% are different minerals. So the main part, if you look at this carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen, the main part of our body still is water with carbon. That's good to know. If you look at our body and you look at lipids, lipid tissue, then you could say 30%, just 30% of our lipid tissue is containing water. So if you have a lot of lipid, then you have less water. And that's what's nowadays is happening. People get more fat and they get less water. So what did Dr. Pollock, Professor Pollock, invent, or he didn't invent it. he said for 100 years ago they already knew that, but I just got it out of the textbooks again, and I put it in a scientific manner. He's a very honest person. He said I didn't invent anything, but I just got the information right, and I will share it with you. But what he said was that water has a specific structure, and water is hydrogen and oxygen. And we always thought that oxygen has two hydrogen molecules on it. But it seems that if you look very carefully, then oxygen has three molecules of hydrogen on it. And then it creates a structure like this, like this. And when I go back, you can see, and I will have some more pictures, then you get a sort of honey rate structure. And that honey rate structure is something with Nassim Haramein also talks about. If you look to the structure of space, if you look to the flower of life, then you also start with that structure. So if we look more carefully, then that structured water is what he calls easy water, exclusion zone water. So everywhere in our body where is connective tissue or where are solutes, they call it, or specific minerals, you get a sort of line of structured water which he calls exclusion zone water. And the other water they call bulk water is water which is more positive. That structured water is more negative charged. That structured water, that exclusion zone water, is completely clear. There are no minerals, no vitamins, no amino acids. There is nothing in it. It's just a structure. All the minerals, all the vitamins, all the elements are in the other part, in the positive part of the water. So everywhere in our body where is connective tissue, there is a sort of line of exclusion zone water. And if you know how much water there is in our body, our body is mainly connective tissue, fascia. There's a lot of science now in how much fascia is in our body, and it people are now understanding that there is much more connective tissue than muscular tissue or nerve tissue, and that we don't know a lot of we don't know a lot of connective tissue, but connective tissue is for 90% water. It's almost all water. And in that connective tissue you have this exclusion zone water. So if you know something more about this, this is all connective tissue. Even bone tissue is connective tissue. It's for the most part is water. Do you know how much water this is? This is a jelly. It's 99.5% water. So this is something like our tissue. That structured water, which they call the exclusion zone layers, you could say that's something like a meridian. A meridian is what they, for 5,000 years already know, are pathways of information of chi, of ki, or how you would call it. And the information is traveling through channels of water, and now we know through exclusion zone layers. And Thornton Streeter, who will speak this week too, he calls it the primovascular system. In science, they call it now primovascular system. That's the same as meridian. It's the same as exclusion layers. And why am I telling you this? Because these are the channels where the information which we need to heal travel through. All the water in our body is situated in our connective tissue, and in our connective tissue, you have hyaluron acid, and all the water is stick to that hyaluron acid. So if your body has a lot of hyaluron acid, then you're very juicy. And our body wants to be juicy because if we dehydrate, then information cannot travel very good anymore. So we have to stay juicy. That's lesson number one. Stay juicy. And you need some water, of course, but you also need not only to drink it, your body needs to store it. So this is what we need to produce in our body. Water can have different states. If that structured water shifts, for example, and they made very nice models of it, it can shift to the right or to the left, or it can turn with a specific angle, then that water is getting a different state. So you can imagine that if it shifts, for example, from left to right, then liquid water will become ice. Or if it goes from right to left, it will become gas. And it will instantly get a different form. In nature, if liquid water will become ice, we need temperature. We need a temperature below zero. But our body can also do this. In our body, the water can also shift to the right and then acts like ice. And that's what we find out if we get a very stiff hip, or when you come out of bed and think, oh man, what's happening? I can't move anymore. And usually you think it's my muscle, but it doesn't have anything to do with your muscle. It's your water, which is turned into a different state. So if you know how to change the state of the water from ice back to water again, to liquid again, then water can move again, and then you're feeling much more easier. And for example, in yoga, which I will tell a little bit about, is a way in how to make ice liquid again, and how energy and information can travel again. I hope you realize that a shift of body from a shift of water in our body from liquid to ice needs a sort of signal. And the signal, for example, to become icy is for example a thought or a feeling. Someone says something to you, you're an asshole, and then something in your water can shift, and oh, you think, oh, my neck, I can't move my neck anymore. So a thought or something which is said to you, something which is done to you, something which is happening in your environment can shift the water. but also a very positive thought can shift the water. So, for example, when I'm in love, then all my water is liquid, and I can heal very quickly. Or when someone is when someone is giving me a kiss in the soccer, for example, if one of my kids had a problem, he fell and he had a big problem on his knee, then I went to him, I gave a kiss on the knee, and I said, well, it's gone, and then he could walk again. And in soccer they use something with water, with a, how do you call it in English, a sponge. uh, they have it in a basket and they put it on the some water on the knee, and then it's gone.
A spray, yeah.
Ah, yes. Yeah,
Spray.
yeah, spray. Yeah. So if you know this theory, you can learn a lot.
Emrik, we can't hear the sound. If you could put the sound louder a little bit, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, can you hear it now? I can't increase the sound anymore.
A nice picture, but I can't hear anything.
Yes, the sound is very low.
Sorry. You can find this film at YouTube.
Okay.
Okay.
Everything I use is ripped from YouTube. So if you look at the science of water, you will find this one. And why I'm putting it in was because what I was telling you about, that water has the ability to change from form, from ice to liquid um, um, to gas very quickly if the right situation is there. This is also some water. These two people are still in love, and they are having their anniversary, 80 years anniversary. He is 108 and she is 103. I like that picture. What I told you, there are specific forms of yoga. For example, Yin yoga, which is which makes the ability to change frozen water in our body to liquid water. So if you stay in a pose very long, then you can melt your own water, and then you can free your joints. But a lot of people, they don't know that they have to stay a little bit longer. It's not for 5 seconds. You have to stay in that pose for at least 2 minutes or 3 or 5 or 8 minutes. It's different per person. A lot of um, people who sports know this. This is a very famous uh, turner in Holland, and he uses all that techniques to create liquid water in his system. So water carries information, and all the instruments we use create that information. So if you listen to some music which brings in some emotions for you, then you are already healing your body with that information. But also your voice. If you're speaking to someone with your voice, then that information will be stored in the water of your body and your body field. So if you are a doctor or a practitioner or a therapist, it's very important that you know you have to be aligned to yourself. Your voice, your complete human body fields has to be in sync. Then the results of what you do are amazing. And usually when I treat people, I just have to see them for 2 or 3 times, and within one time, all the difference already happens. But if I'm not in sync with myself, then it's more difficult. This is also Fibonacci. At a cellular level, it's not only the water which we use. We also have to try to find out which frequency is best for us. And there's a lot of evidence that the Schumann resonance 7.8 is something which is also in our brain. And it's also what Dr. Korotkov in his video talks about in the resonance of water. If you pronounce um, with love a prayer in water, it's also about 7.8 hertz. So it's all about that frequency. And the Quoravita, the little gem with the coil, uses the frequency of 7.8. Of course, at cellular level, you also have to have a sort of receiver in which that information field can be received. And there's also a lot of nice pictures and interviews in what at that cellular level is the antenna. And it seems that the microtubuli are the antennas in our cells which receive that specific information. Oh yeah, one more. If you look at this lady, what will be more helpful, the thing which she gives of the thing which she sends out? So if you give someone a medicine, it's not the medicine which you give, it's how you give it, how you present it, what you put from yourself into it. And I think that's a big problem with regular medicine nowadays. A lot of doctors over here in Holland, they are very sick. They're sick of the system. So the system will be even more sicker. That's a big problem over here. If you look at the shoulder, do you know what a frozen shoulder is? Ever heard of a frozen shoulder? A frozen shoulder is that people cannot lift their arm anymore. Their shoulder is frozen. And now you know it's the water which is in a different state. So you just have to defrost that water again. And that's why physiotherapy doesn't work with this. I did lots of patients, and I had them for 2 years, and I did lots of things, and nothing worked. But now I know I forgot one very important thing. I forgot that that you have to uh, to defrost that water, and that's because if it's ice and you pull on the ice, it will break. You will rip it. It will stay hard, and it takes a long time. It takes 2 years to defrost it. Now I have another way, and it goes much quicker. That's if you look into the frozen shoulder, then you see a lot of blood, but you also see a lot of ice. If you look more on the microscopic level, you will see that the water is shifted. This was how I did it before. Just pull on that shoulder. But now I know it's much more easier to find the right frequency and the right information pattern, and it will be defrosted. And there's one extra thing which the patient has to do. He has to be in contact with his shoulder. Because if you are in contact with your body, you also will do something in which the water will shift. Normally, when we have pain, we will go out of it. We don't want it. But I've learned that if you go to it and you stay into that pain, it will change. And then the water will change and the liquid crystals will come. And then people will be, they will get the frozen parts out of it themselves. This, not only this device will help, but they will be their own device. And of course, that's the best solution. Okay, we go to the last part. There it is, last part. And I've called it the human light element because it's a human light system. Let's talk about the human light element. The quintessence. What's the quintessence? The quintessence is that all the information is light. So we need to find a way to create the light in ourselves. So we also need to know where that light is from. And I think every one of you knows that visible light is just a very small part of what we can see. But there are so many extra um, um, frequencies. We can only see something from 400 nanometers till 700 nanometers. That is what we observe. But there is so much more which we cannot observe, but which is there. And we have to find a way in aligning to that frequencies which are there and which are very healing. And normally when you see this charge, you see X-rays and gamma rays, and they say, well, that's not good for our body, and radio waves not good for our body. But I think that if you align to that frequency, which brings in a sort of resonance in your information field, it's always right, and your body knows which frequency it needs. I always thought that the Schumann frequency everywhere on the earth was 7.8, but it seems to be a little bit different. Because of the earth, the Schumann frequencies are made of the ion, how do you call it? The light which comes in, I don't know the word of the light. How do you call it, Malcolm? How do you call?
You mean the
Thunderstorm?
rainbow? The specter of light, the rainbow.
Yeah, but the other one, how do you call it?
Lightning.
Yeah, lightning. Oh, it's very easy. So the Schumann frequency is created by all the lightnings which are in the Earth, and from the Earth there will be a sort of electromagnetic field, and then you have the Schumann frequency will not be only 7.8, but because of the Earth is different shaped on different parts, you will on some parts you will have 7.8, on some parts you will have 14.3, and on some parts you will have 20.8. And there are some great sites which are always measuring where the frequency is differs. And on the upper part you will see the frequency of the Earth is also related to the frequency in our brain. So if we sleep, we have a frequency from 0.5 till 4. If we have a very slight sleep, if we're not just awake, but we're almost awake, you will be from 7 till 7.5, 4 till 7.5. And the alpha waves in which we are very relaxed and almost meditating, you have 7.5 till 12 hertz. And those three parts are very good in using to bring information to our subconscious mind. And I think you will know that our subconscious mind is for 95% bringing of the time, bringing all the information into our world. So just 5% of the time we are from our conscious mind doing the things we do. So bringing information in our human body field, you need to have low frequencies, very low frequencies. That's why meditation or yin yoga is also very easy to use to bring in that information which we need for healing. Well, of course, you know Tesla. He was one of the first people who already talked about the toroidal field in a coil, and Nassim has used a lot of his theory. I like that picture very much because what you can see is not only the body, and you can not only see from the thermography that some parts are warm and some parts are cold, but you can also see that the information will flow through our body field. So if you could see our body, our human body, not as matter, but if you could see our body as a sort of a hologram, then that information field around us creates our human body as a sort of a hologram. And that's where integrative medicine also is working with not only our physical body, but also with our body field, with a hologram. This is the picture from the human light system. So everything is light, and we need to find a way to let the light travel again in our body field, and then we can heal ourselves. And of course, the biowell is a way in measuring the light. But what we need to know is how can we bring that light into our body? How can we enlighten ourselves? And of course, you can use meditation. Of course, you can use Quoravita. Of course, you can use a lot of things to enlighten our body. But the most important thing is to walk half an hour a day barefoot, so you can align to the field of the earth, the field of the earth, which is creating a very specific frequency information which we need to heal. And a lot of people forget to align to Mother Earth. since I'm doing that, it's much easier. I don't have to eat as much as I did, and I'm healing much quicker. So I would suggest for you all, take a half hour on barefoot, uh, not only outside but also inside. On blote voeten, we call it in Holland. It's the same as barefoot. And we also need to find food which has a lot of information in it. And that's food which is biological. Biological food has more information which we can use to align to than food which is not biological. And I like this picture very much. The left part is, of course, biological, and the right part is not biological. This is the same. And one more. So before I get to the last part, a little bit of summary. The Quoravita is just a way in bringing very quick information, which we cannot think of, to bring it into an information field, into our human body field, to align to that information, which makes our body heal quicker. So you don't have to know a lot about how it works. And of course, if you know a lot about quantum medicine, then you learn small bits of it, which I mentioned during this lecture. But what you need to know is we we always have to find a way to align to information, and that's sometimes it's someone which is in your neighborhood which you like very much, which gives you the information. Sometimes it's the sun, sometimes it's infrared from a sauna, which is very good for your body. Sometimes it's a Quoravita, sometimes it's just the earth which you have to align to. It's a little bit food which is very filled up with light because we can only process the light, and all the rest we will bring out through our intestines, and our body only uses the light. So food is also very small part of it. And of course, everything I talked about is rubbish because you cannot trust an atom. They make everything up. And I always say what I'm teaching is something which I've learned, but it's there till someone else tells something else. So try to get out the information which is good for you and which you can use for yourself. But don't trust me. The most important thing I hope you learn from this lesson is try to align yourself every day to yourself and your environment and find your own way. Everyone has his own way to align himself to his environment and to himself. And of course, you can use a gem, of course, you can use a tool, of course, you can use meditation, but find your own way to align yourself. And if you are aligned, then your information field will do a lot with your patient. And then the only thing you have to do is to bring yourself in. And it doesn't matter what you do. If you're an acupuncturist or you're a medical doctor or you're a herbal doctor or you're a physiotherapist, then just your presence will do a lot. And that's me. In July, I will be in the United States, and we have 1 week about all those subjects. And not only I will be there, Dr. Rainer Vierwegen will be there, and there are some other people who will teach. And we will bring all this information in much broader part, and then and I hope I will do this not only in the United States but also in Europe and maybe in Prague or maybe in Mexico or wherever, and bring all that new information in a bigger perspective. Well, this was it. I hope you you have some information which you can use, and I hope it was pleasant to listen to it.
Thank you very much. And I have a question.
Thank you very much, Emrik. It was very in-depth and interesting.
Okay. Who has a question?
Me, Dieter.
Dieter.
Yes, please. What's about the bad radiation of the smartphone? You're using the smartphone together with this stone or this crystal.
Yeah.
And I've learned that there are bad radiation from your
Yeah. Yeah.
How you put this together? How you it comes together?
Very easy, because when you use the gemstone, then you put it into your telephone. You have, if you can only use it if you use it in fly mode. So if you put your phone in fly mode, everything from that bad radiation will stop.
Oh, okay. I see.
You cannot use it if it's not on fly mode.
I see. I see. Okay. That's
Yeah?
it. Thanks.
Okay. You're welcome. Are there more questions?
I would have a million questions, but
Really?
we would have to meet in person.
Okay, that's good. I would like that. Well, I hope you enjoyed this.
Was great.
Good, good.
Yes, thank you, Emrik. It was very nutritious, your lecture. Very nice.
Sorry, Martina, I didn't understand what you were saying. Can you say it again?
I said that was very nutritious, your lecture. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Well, then I wish you all a very good evening, or wherever you are, maybe. Oh, no, you all are in the evening now, I think.
Yeah.
So have a
Emrik,
good evening. Yeah.
Question: if we need to contact you by email, was that your email at the bottom at the end of the presentation?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So if you have questions, you can always email me.
Great. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Very enjoyable.
Thank you.
Blessings.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.